guys, welcome back. It is your favorite Gimp with a Limp, and I'm here with the review for British Tank Ace. It's finally in my hands, finally got it. This is by Compass Games and, of course, Gregory M. Smith. Now, if you've seen my channel before, it's not going to be hard to know what the result for this is going to be. So this review, I'm going to do a little different. We're not going to dip down to the table and do the components or anything like that. I'll have them in the background so you guys can see them. But this game is going to have other videos, examples of play. I'm going to do a little series on it, so I don't need to go into all the details. We're going to, of course, talk about all the components and all the gameplay that the game has, but the review will be short because, of course, it's positive. I love the game. You knew before I even put the review up it was going to be a good review. American Tank Ace is my favorite of the roll and write games. And British Tank Ace is now just taking it to that next level. So if you haven't played one of these games, a quick gist of what you're going to be doing is this is one of the type of games, the roll and writes, where you have your thing. Whatever your thing is, submarine, zeppelin, in this case, a tank, and you're going to use that and go on a series of missions. This is a solitaire only game. There are ways to play it, multiplayer, cooperative, or stuff like that. It's really not designed for that. Can you? Yes, but no. It's a solitaire game. And in our game here, you're going to have campaigns that range anywhere from 1940 to 1945. And now they will take place all the way from North Africa to Italy to Europe itself. American Tank Ace had a smaller scope when it came to the different battlefields that you would fight on. And this one almost feels kind of like 3 games in one, and that you have those different theaters. And those different theaters are going to have their each own battle board, tanks that can be used, and enemies that will be fought against. So that's the gist of the game. Let's talk about the components, and then we'll talk about the gameplay itself and do some final thoughts on it. Components. Components are good. It is a heavier box than we had seen in American Tank Ace. There are more components to deal with now. Like I said previously, there are multiple theaters, and each one of those theaters does have its own battle board. Now, I do believe they could have streamlined it and had just one single battle board, but it does make the game feel a little more thematic that they do have a battle board for each theater. They do have an operations map for each theater. So those kind of expand upon the thematic nature and feel of the game. All of those are mounted. You also have a few other player aids that are mounted. The player aids for the tanks themselves are the card stock, so not mounted board, but card stock. And I do understand why they would do that. Take a huge box because there's a large variety. I believe it's 22, if I remember right off the top of my head, different tanks that you have to choose from in this game. And those player aids are going to be double-sided. Now, speaking of the rest of the player aids, there are going to be generic player aids that you're going to use with all the campaigns. And then there's a handful of player aids for each one of the different theaters. So you'll have like 3 player aids for North Africa, 3 player aids for Italy, 3 player aids for Europe, and each one of those are card stock as well. Lastly, we do have the counters. In games like this, you don't generally need a huge amount of counters. This isn't a counter-dense game. There's only about 2.5 sheets worth of counters. There are more than there were in American Tank Ace, and that is to be expected because while there's roughly a similar amount of tanks to choose from, a little more in this game, but similar, there are a much wider variety of enemies to face, and each one of them are accounted by their own counters. Now, these are the stamped counters, not the pre-rounded counters, so I would suggest clipping these counters. Use your organ laminate if you're smart. Use fingernail clippers if you're not. Sorry, guys. Organ laminate's the way to go. They just look so much better. Perfectly rounded like that. I didn't have any problem with any delamination or anything while I was punching these out. They are cut very nicely to make it easy to punch out from the counter sheets, but this is what we expect from Compass Games. They generally have good component quality. The only ding I can give them on the components isn't actually their fault, and that has to do with the North African player board, the battle board actually, and you got a little sheet of stickers that you had to put on there. And it's funny because anytime stickers are in a game, the designer, the publisher will almost apologize to me because it's like known that I hate stickers. I'm not faulting them for it. Evidently, this was caught before the games were produced, and it was the manufacturers who made the mistake. They printed the wrong version. And I understand in a situation like that, you're looking at like, do we push back all the games? This is going to add months because now you had to, produce all new boards and then pop open all the boxes, you replace all the components, reseal it. You would add a massive amount of time to it, or you could just throw in a little sheet of stickers, throw on there. It's not that big of a deal. Stickers went on fine, and there's 3 you got to worry about. It's really not that big of a deal. Like I said, it's not Compass's fault, and I can understand why they made that choice because it was the lesser of the 2 evils, and it saved drastically more time than going in the other direction. So, components are great. Don't have to worry about those. Gameplay is what we're here for, though. When it comes to gameplay, it's just more of what we already liked in American Tank Ace. And that's really all I wanted, right? I wasn't expecting any massive innovation in this game. And I mean, there's some. The rules are definitely tweaked and improved. A lot of that errata that got put into American Tank Ace the first time, that's already been taken care of. Of course, with the updated rules now in British Tank Ace, so I don't anticipate having a whole lot of errata for this game. But the general premise of the game is going to flow very much similarly to what you have seen in American Tank Ace, where you'll go through your tank school. That's pretty much the first thing that you'll do just to get you a little start. Honestly, you can even skip that part if you want to. It just gives you a little edge and kind of gives you that feel that you might get a little bonus there at the start. And after that, you will pick your starting tank. Depending on the theater that you start in, time frame, you might have a limited amount of tanks. I think for North Africa, there's about 3 that you can choose from. Europe, it's 1 or 2. You only get to pick from a few because there are prestige levels. Basically, it's the experience level of the tank and the date that it comes into, because the North African campaign starts in the 1940s. Italian is 1943. It's 1944 for the European campaign. But you can play it as a whole grand campaign if you want to. And that's actually what I'm going to be doing myself. I'm going to start from the beginning, North Africa, with a basic tank, see how far I can get. But you guys stay tuned for that video. I'm going to tweak it a little bit so I don't have to keep restarting, but I am going to see how far I can get with the entire campaign. And that drastically increases the length that you could have this campaign last compared to what we had seen in American Tank Ace, because now you could really go from 1940 all the way to 1945. And if you got really lucky, you could have 1 tank crew survive the whole way. Dice gods being what they are, I doubt anyone's going to actually achieve that, but it would be really awesome to see someone pull it off. Just like we had seen before, though, when you do select your tank, you will be able to outfit your tank as you see fit, up to including the different types of armaments that it can use. There are a few extra different types of rounds that we did not see in American Tank Ace. The new smoke, I think it's HCBI, is included here. Of course, my ultimate favorites of Willie Pete's are in there. Each tank will have their own specific armaments that they can use. Some tanks might not have the ability to fire HE or APCR. It is going to be each tank specific, or you might have neat tanks like the M3 Lee that has 2 cannons. You've got the 37 mil and you've got the 75 mil cannon on that tank, and you get to fire both of them. They are both accounted for. And the special ammo for the tanks is going to be limited, whereas the generic ammo is considered unlimited. So just regular armor piercing or HE or your machine guns is considered unlimited. You do have to keep track of this ammo, but you just reload it because you had thousands and thousands of rounds of machine gun or 100 or so AP HE type rounds. That's obviously not going to be accounted for. You're not going to use that many rounds in a single mission, so those are considered unlimited for the course of each individual mission. Just like we saw previously, when you do conduct a battle, you will roll to determine what type of weather, what type of terrain, and what type of enemy forces are going to be fighting against you. As you conduct your actions, the enemy will respond to you, and it's designed in such a way that it gives you a grander battlefield feel, in that you're not just the sole tank. It's not you against everyone. It's supposed to make you kind of feel like you are just seeing the battlefield from your perspective, but there's other stuff going on around you. And that's simulated in the fact that the enemies don't always target you. They're shooting at guys who are effectively off the battle board. And you will roll to determine whether or not they start firing at you, or if you start firing at them, they automatically start shooting at you. So it does behoove you to pick your targets wisely so you don't suddenly start taking fire from a whole bunch of enemies all at once. When it comes to the missions themselves, there's the same type of variety that we saw previously. You're going to have missions like move to contact or attacks or assault or even defend missions. And you can have defense missions pop up after you have conducted a mission. So let's say you roll and you get an attack mission, you go on, you succeed at your attack mission. You will roll to see if the enemy is going to attack you back. And they can occasionally decide to do so, at which point you do not get to rearm and refit before you have to conduct a whole nother battle. So sometimes you have to think about that. If the enemy rolls to conduct another attack against you, then you have to fight with just what you have left in the tank. So you might not want to fire off all your special rounds before the end of the mission. Once you do finish the mission, if you survive, you do get the chance to get things like war trophies or experience points that can carry on and add up and increase things like your prestige level. And as you go through the course of time, you will be able to gain those extra levels and can translate that into newer and better tanks. If your tank is still operable, as in it hasn't been destroyed out from underneath you, then it costs you an extra point to be able to level up, because they don't want you wasting a valuable tank. But if you do have a tank blow out, you bail out, your crew survives, you can step into an upgraded tank at that point. And I've just got to say, wholeheartedly, with the wide variety of the different types of missions, different types of tanks, different theaters, different enemy units, no campaign is going to play the same ever with this game. And as I've said before, with American Tank Ace, it has enough choice to really make it worth playing. These roll and write games, for them to be successful solitaire games, they require choice. They require your input to make things happen. It can't just be rolling on the charts. The older games like B-17, Queen of the Skies, yes, they were great, at their time frame, but they were innovative then. Now we've got new stuff and we understand new mechanics, and we want to have choice. And you have that in spades here. You get to pick things like the ammo, the types of weapons that you're using, the type of rounds that you're firing off, where your tank's pointing, what enemies that you're targeting, where your tank's moving on the battlefield, if you're going to angle movement, firing, shooting, all the different things that you would imagine you could do with a tank. You have those choices here. You even have the choice to retreat and choose to fail the mission instead of just staying there and duking it out until you die. Sometimes retreat will be the better part of valor. So yeah, again, ultimately, British Tank Ace, wholehearted recommend. Can't recommend it enough. Anyone who likes solitaire games is going to find something that they're going to like here. Great components, great gameplay, extensive gameplay, unending replay value here. And really, for the cost that you're paying, the hours to dollars spent is unimaginable for what you're gaining for it. So considering that my favorite tank is the Sherman 76, I am going to give this one a Sherman 76 out of 10. All right, that's it for me. You guys stay tuned. I will have a campaign filmed and I'll get those videos up as soon as I can. Y'all take care and I'll see you in the next one.